So I'm one of those people who always had a hard time fitting in. I think a lot of us feel that way, but I may have had more challenges than some because my parents kind of got lost. I got born in the wrong place. I was born in Houston, Texas, instead of Seoul, Korea. And worse yet, I was brought up religious, which means I was brought up Southern Baptist. And in New York, I feel like I need to explain what that means a little bit. They're like the kind of people who think that rock and roll's the music of the devil, and they didn't even have the pandemic to figure out that the proper distance when dancing is 6 feet apart. But, I had these traumatic memories of childhood, and I'd be like, are these real? And I got a one-word confirmation because I had to apply for a visa, and I had to ask the state of Texas to send me a copy of my birth certificate. So I got to find out what the doctors labeled me as when I was born. And I thought they might say something a little bit outdated, like Oriental, which is slightly offensive, but totally fine. Or Asian or something like that. But no, they just had one word. They just had the word yellow. So those memories were real. Anyway, that's not so bad though. I feel like I got off easy because I think if I was born today, I'd just be called by this administration a chink. But but you know what? I love white people. I love white people. I especially love my white people, which means, of course, Koreans who think they're white. When you take my brother, he drives a Ford pickup truck. He married this white woman who already had a 12-year-old daughter when he met her. They had 2 kids, now they're divorced. He shoots lots of guns, and he thinks that Hollywood is way too woke. So basically, he's a misogynistic, racist Southerner who just happens to be ethnically Korean. And then you take my mom. Well, my mom, I try to avoid talking politics with her, but I had to ask her, Mom, why do you vote for Trump every time? And you know what she told me? She said, I feel like he's fighting for me. And I'm like, how do I explain it to this 5-foot-tall, 80-year-old Korean woman who lives in Oklahoma, that as far as she's concerned, MAGA just means make Asians go away. But these are, I like to blame Trump for making these Trump times, but it's not all on him, When you think about it, is it really polite to bring up at a polite Upper East Side dinner the Palestine situation? Probably not. But, we came together as a city. Is the microphone still working? Yeah. I'm not sure. Anyway, I guess I'll just go without it. I just realized that the other day it was interesting, right? With there's this Bangladeshi guy who got this phrase, this 4-line phrase, to become really popular. I'm sure you've heard it. My mayor is Muslim. My bagel's Jewish. My Christian Dior, Nixon 4. And I'm like, first of all, Christian Dior, that doesn't really fit. And why didn't all the crazy Christians in this country attack this guy, this Bangladeshi immigrant? But then, and then worse yet, the Knicks lost that game, right? And we think he's going to bury himself somewhere. But no, he comes back. He comes back and says, my mayor's still Muslim. My bagel's Jewish. The Pope is on our side, Nixon 5. And we all know what happened. But the amazing thing is, I looked it up. I was like, how did the church feel about this? And they actually, the bishop of the Archdiocese of New York was in favor of him. And then I thought that was really cool also because we all know that it's really sad that we have an American Pope, but he's from Chicago. He's for the Bulls. But then it turned out there's video of him giving a thumbs up to the Nixon 5. Turns out he's in Loma Villanova. So it just makes me wonder, did God go to Villanova? But like these days, I have to say it's really different from when I was growing up. It's very funny that Korean culture is popular. We have K-pop Demon Hunters won an Oscar. It's amazing. And I just feel like there are people sometimes reach out to me kind of like, yeah, I grew up with a really stern Jewish father, so I know what it's like to grow up Korean. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, my dad, he told me that I only had 3 choices. I could be a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure. And I just look at him like, dude, you have way too many options. That's not
when you're Korean, you only have one option, which is to be a doctor. And the only way that lawyer starts coming up in the conversation is like when the whole family is like, he's too stupid to be a doctor. Then he asked me like, what about my third option? And I was like, there's no third option. You're just not in the family anymore. But you know, I also find it kind of funny to think about whether it's really racist when white people say we all look alike, because I had an experience lately. I play the violin, and I was assigned to perform in a concert with this long-haired Korean violinist, and I was like, okay. And something you need to know is that there are more long-haired Korean violinists at Juilliard than there are long-haired Koreans on the LPGA. And so, anyway, I was assigned to do this, and I went to a chamber reading party. That's where we like to get together, we just read music together, and she was there. She was playing violin. She was playing a piece of music, and then there was an opportunity where there were two violins, so I sat next to her and we played. And then apparently she had to leave early, so she took off. I didn't get a chance to even talk to her. I decided it'd be nice to be friendly, so I messaged her on Facebook. I said, hey, it was nice to see you last night at the party. Glad we got to play a little bit together. I'm looking forward to our performance later this month. And then, you know, she sent me a message saying, I wasn't at that party. So was that racism? But anyway, as my giveaway, I'm a doctor, and I have to tell you, I hate doctors. They're really annoying. They throw the worst parties. And I'm married to a lawyer. I've been to a lot of lawyer parties. I'll take them any day. I think part of the problem is that a lot of doctors only talk about things like malpractice, which is exactly as exciting as that sounds. And then they like to brag about how they spend their money. And I think that's how I found myself once on a urologist boat. And it was actually a kind of nice day. It was sunny, wind streaming through your hair, and you're kind of like, this is kind of nice. But then I started cringing when I thought about the name of the boat, which was the Golden Stream 2. And I just thought, who names their most prized possession over some stinky body fluid? And what are his nicknames for his kids? But anyway, you know, a lot of I feel like we've been talking about dating and things like that, and I've been out of that game for a long time, 33 years, my wife is over there. But, you know, I feel like everyone says that the only way you date these days is to be on the ass, but then everybody complains about them. And I'm like, hearing their stories, I'm like, I don't think people are interpreting this right. Because, you know, if you interact with some guy and he doesn't show up for the date, is that really the app's fault? Or like, you have a great first date and you feel like things are going well and you reach out to her and she ghosts you? I think the answer is not that the apps suck, it's just the same thing that's always been the case. It's just that people suck. But you know, the good thing is that I was listening to, for the guys in the room, I was listening to a relationship expert on public radio the other day. And they pointed out that women, especially college-educated women, are going to have to adjust their expectations because there are way more women in college than men. So if they all want to get married to college-educated men, there are a lot of them that are going to go without. So he recommended two things for these women. He said, you got to think lower and younger. So lower as in not a college degree. So why not the cute plumber with a nice butt? You know, like he's got a good paycheck, right? And maybe think younger because maybe a younger guy would be more comfortable having a more accomplished partner. So for all the guys in the room, I'm not going to ask you for your grade point averages, but like, let's say you didn't do so well, so maybe you didn't get through school. You still have options. Just put on a nice pair of jeans, go to your local bar, and wait for your shipper mom to pick you up. So I now am old enough to have the pleasure of having full-grown adult children who are embarrassed by all my style choices, and. You know, they roll their eyes. I had a pair of Yeezys on once, and my daughter was like, Dad, what are you doing with a pair of Yeezys? They don't work for you. And I was like, are you kidding me? They're working perfectly. I got them to annoy you. But they also asked questions about like my necklace, like, Dad, what is that? That's so embarrassing. I have to say, I do get a lot of comments, so I had to come up with a story. And I would tell people things like, You know, it's the center of my soul. And people react like they wouldn't take me seriously. I could tell, but they also didn't want to challenge me because they were worried that I would call them racist because they didn't know my Asian religion. But then, you know, they don't ever believe me when I show them what it's for. That's my sentiment.